Hello, everyone. It is Friday, July 23rd, and we are live with executive coach Arathi Ramappa. We are so happy to have her on the call with us today. And she is also part of the Miami Business Leaders Group. So we are so excited that she joined the Miami Business Leaders Group. So thank you so much, Arathi, for being with us this morning. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this discussion. And I love the group, Miami Business Leaders.
Yes, it's been so awesome. Since we started the group, we have about 200 plus CEOs on the group. And we have just been networking, and really it's having fun and getting to be ourselves, but at the same time building some really valuable content. So if you are a business leader, and a CEO, a Miami business leader, an influencer in your community, we want you to be part of Miami Business Leaders Group. You can go ahead and find it. And we do have some questions that we have you ask, because we want to make sure that all who are on inside the group is serious about being an entrepreneur and serious about receiving quality information. And also being able to watch these very fun and informational meetings that we have with our business leaders. So I am going to get started. And for those that do not know, Arathi Ramappa is an executive coach. And Arathi, how long have you been doing this?
I've been coaching for about at least 5 years right now, but my background is I used to be a developer 20 years ago. I worked in technology and operations management. I was setting up offices overseas for a global corporation that was a Fortune 500. This was many years ago. And then I had managed offices in Tokyo, Germany, Taipei, Beijing, Toronto, there was India. Then I started my own business doing technology consulting and business consulting. And I had that for 10 years. So I love entrepreneurship and tech and startup. And then I also owned a radiology facility with my family that we sold to a HCA hospital. And then I decided I just wanted to really help people on a more direct level. So I got certified as a coach in 2015. So I've been managing people for a long time, but I really wanted to up my game, and I started a new business doing this coaching. So it's been fun. I can't hear you. You're muted.
There you go. Sorry. Some technical difficulties, huh? But so you definitely have years of experience, and you absolutely know what you're talking about. And one of the things that I want to kind of share, um, I do want to share about Arathi is that you are not just a business leader in the Miami community, but I love that you are such a philanthropist and you share so much of your heart's passion. I know that's how we met.
Yes.
We were part of the Women's Fund initiative for the Stop Sex Trafficking campaign. And as a lot of people know, human trafficking is very dear to my heart. So, you know, it's so important to be a business leader, but I also believe that it's just as important to give back to the community.
No, I definitely.
That's something that you do. I know that you're also involved in several other business and philanthropic committees. So talk about that as well, because I know you had an initiative going on women's rights when it comes to like equal pay.
Yes. So I'm part of the Miami Beach Chamber, and I am the co-chair of the Women's Business Council Advocacy Committee. And I'm also, they just started a new committee that I'm on, the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee. As part of, some of the things that I work on overlap, but we're right now doing a campaign on gender gender pay gap issues, pay equity, and we want to work on focusing, trying to get business to actually do an analysis of whether there is a pay gap within their companies. But first, also just to spread awareness, because most women don't know, is that the higher you go up, the gap even gets bigger. So right now, like there was a status of women Miami-Dade report by FIU last year, and we hear about this 75 cents or 72 cents to a dollar, but as we go up, the gap gets bigger. Like for instance, in law professions in Miami, there is a 50% gap between men and women. And
Wow.
yeah, and so when you hear that number, you're like, what? And the same thing in technical professions. I don't know if the gap is that large in other technical professions and stuff like that, but the gap is much larger than what we hear, usually 25%, gap. So, and most women, I also know, as with coaching women entrepreneurs, I don't only coach women entrepreneurs, but if I have coached women entrepreneurs, because I coach men too, they tend to undervalue the pricing of their services, which I've done in the past as an entrepreneur. And it's a lot. So it's not only in your careers and at a company that there's a gap, we also tend to do it to ourselves as entrepreneurs. So we really need to have awareness about that.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Well, here at the Mabuno Project, we are extra careful, and we make sure that we empower women. We truly seek to be the most diverse company. And it's crazy because we're a team of about 10, 10 and 11 plus hires. And if a small company like ours can,
Out a little bit. I can't hear you really well.
okay, give me
Oh
one
wait, now
sec.
you're fine. Now you're fine.
Okay. And if we seek to thrive for diversity and thrive for equal pay and thrive for women in business, I am sure that some of these other larger organizations can try to do that as well. So thank you for being a voice
Thank you.
for that. So I want to get right into what we came to talk about. So when we started the Miami Business Leaders Group, we asked a couple of questions that you have to answer before you get into the group. And the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure that all the people that are in the group are within the same mindset. And the mindset really is just to network and build a community of leaders, business leaders, and Miami influencers. And part of the questions that we asked was, how what is a difficulty for you? And it was so impressive to receive the answers and hear that a lot of the people inside the Miami Business Leaders Group had issues with retaining, hiring, and inspiring their employees, or either getting new hires or retaining. Felt like this was such an amazing conversation to have because it is an important topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over with you some of those answers that we received, and we're going to talk about them. And I want you're the executive coach. So we want you to share what are some of the things that they can do to continue. So we're going to start with the first one. The first one is we had a member that had an issue attracting and retaining employees. So that has always been a challenge for this particular member. It has been attracting and retaining employees. So give us your expertise, kind of like small consultation on what can business owners do, what can CEOs do, entrepreneurs do to, one, retain the right employee, but also attract new hires. That's also very important for a company.
Okay, so great question. So let's look at first retaining. Okay. within your organization, what you need to do, if you have a high turnover rate, or and people are leaving, you need to start really looking at what is going on in your organization that causes people to leave, right? So it could be that you survey your employees, do some type of survey that's anonymous, so you're getting feedback first to see what the issues are. Is the team environment not so great? I hate using the word toxic, but that's the buzzword. Do they feel like they don't have any, they're not motivated properly? Do they feel like there's not any proper incentives? But what leaders need to realize is that it first begins with them. So
Mm.
you have to first survey your employees, but you have to really be self-aware of how you're leading. Um, it doesn't matter, like I have organizations that want to come and want me to give workshops to their employees, but if your leaders don't change, none of it matters. So that's the first thing, is being self-aware. How are you leading? Because we don't realize a lot of what we're doing. Sometimes there are leaders that will say, I've been in meetings before where I've heard people like, we've been talking to people, to the employees, and we're in meetings, we're like, if you make a mistake, it's okay, just let us know. We really, want to work on this. And then when somebody does make a mistake, it is not okay. They lash out. So
Wow.
are you walking the talk? Yes. And what makes a company, I mean, there's been so much research done, and I'm a research junkie. So the key to organizational effectiveness, there was a study done with like, I think 1,000 companies, and I think maybe 40 were like, or 80 were like in the Fortune 100. And they said the key to organizational effectiveness was like kindness, appreciation, motivation, inspiration, integrity, forgiveness, compassion. And those literally affected the bottom line, the firm's performance, their customer satisfaction, and the productivity. So you
Mm.
want to look at, are you fostering an environment that is like that? So that's the first thing, is to really do an assessment on yourself, of how you're leading. And it takes a lot of effort, because it's, how are you having the difficult conversations? How are you motivating your employees? How are you letting them know? How are you appreciating them? There was a study, I think, with like 70,000 employees, and 79, and they asked why they left organizations. 79% of them left because of a lack of appreciation. So you want to make sure that you're appreciating your employees on a regular basis. I mean, think about it. We might be being paid. You've been there before. If you work for another company, you might be being paid a lot, but why do you leave? If you don't feel appreciated, it doesn't matter how much you're getting paid, and so to retain employees, first do a survey, but then also, and see what is going on with your employees. Ask them, but when you're asking them, if you have on one-on-ones, you can just like pose it to your team. We've had a lot of employee turnover. What do you think it is? And you have to, like I said, maybe do an anonymous survey and ask them. But if you're going to do it face to face, they have to feel trust with you and be able to be open. So have you just established that trust in your team? So again, first start with yourself and look at your leadership style. And are you fostering all those things, that those touchy feely emotions that we think, I have a talk that I give, like, nice guys finish first, because we think nice guys finish last, and that's not the truth. It actually affects your firm performance if you have those type of, values instituted in your organization. So that's that, and that's the way also to attract new employees, because especially with millennials, which is great, what they want to know that they're going to be working at a company that values them, and that values these type of, you know that these type of values. They want to know, like, is it a kind organization? Are you doing good things for the community? So I would also say, to attract, get involved with the community, because they want to know that their work means something, and their company takes them into account, and their company is doing good things for the world. So even if you're like making pencils, you might not think you should be doing stuff outside and helping the community, because that's what really attracts people to work there.
So there's several things, Arathi, this you just said so much that's so good that I kind of want to dissect this
Sure.
down a little bit more for our audience. And if you are listening, I want to thank you for taking your lunch hour to spend time in this conversation. Retain, empower, and inspire. How to retain and quick and inspire your employees, or retain or gain new employees. Miami Business Leaders Group. So thank you so much for that. So for joining us during your lunch hour. One of the things that I want to talk about that you mentioned is that it starts from the head down.
Yeah.
So leadership and leadership development is so important, because how can we expect our employees to engage in the company culture if we ourselves, the leaders, aren't in a right
Exactly.
mindset?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm big on, I do a lot of leadership workshops. I work with executives and entrepreneurs. The reason why I focus on that was not only because I've been an executive myself, but because when you work with those type of people, they affect a lot more people, right? Their energy affects everybody else. And that's why I like working with leaders. So you do, it definitely, like, I focus on emotional intelligence. You should really look at your emotional intelligence. Everybody thinks they're emotionally intelligent, and actually everybody thinks they're self-aware, but there is research that has been done. There's a great TED talk on it. I think it was Tara Ulrich. She did all this research on self-awareness and did a huge study, and really only 10% of people are self-aware. So we always think we know ourselves and we think we know how we act, but we really need to go deeper. Like, how are we reacting? How are we looking at things, at a situation? How are we, what are our perceptions? Most of us always make a perception based on something that we don't know. Maybe it's from our past history or something somebody did in the past. We don't even give it a chance to be something different, right? Um, how are we having the difficult conversations? One big thing is also, like, when you're talking to your employees, we need to appreciate them, right? But it's more than just a quick thank you, right? You need to be doing it on a consistent basis, and write something like a one-line sentence. 1 or 2 line sentences means much more than a thank you, because we do the appreciation, send that email out to the whole team. Oh, great job, right? There was actually a study of, I mean, not a study, there was actually a story that I read a couple of years ago, that the CEO of Burt's Beeswax, Burt's, the
Yeah.
healthcare line, or the beauty line, Burt's Bees, that's it. They were doing expansion to like 16 different countries. And he made it a point every day during the expansion to send one letter of appreciation out to somebody. So he didn't do it at the end, and he did it every single day. He did that. And what you do is, and of course it went well, they're all over the world now. And what that does is, not only does it spur on your team to be that way if you're doing it on a regular basis, but it's showing them that you value them, right? You value their work. And it could be for the small fixes and for the big things too, right? The other thing too is that what we don't tend to do, we think of it, we're so busy, right, as leaders and owners of companies. And so we really need to take the time, though, to recognize, like I said, appreciation. But right now, what a big deal, a big thing that came out, I've seen 2 research studies about remote work. And the one thing that employees are missing out on is recognition. So that's because they're not in those meetings. So when you're in virtual meetings, you should start mentioning, hey, call somebody out and recognize them. Do it, also personally, but start doing that, or making that something like in every meeting, start recognizing somebody, for the work they did. And it's interesting that people are feeling that way right now, their lack of recognition. So again, if they're not feeling recognized, they're not going to be motivated. So,
Right.
but so like I said, so we have to notice what we're doing. Are we going into meetings complaining all the time? Are we going into meetings, stressed out? Because we drive the energy of the team, right? So what is our energy that we're bringing? Are we always, angry? Are we always just under the gun? Are we always overwhelmed when we talk to them? Well, if we're overwhelmed, they're going to feel overwhelmed. If we come in complaining, they're going to be complaining. So, or they're just not going to deal with you. So we drive that. So that's why it needs to start with leaders, like with the top down.
That's amazing. And I encourage any CEO, any leader, to get with Arathi if you feel like you do need some leadership coaching, maybe some emotional health, because I mean, in fairness to leaders and business owners, we carry a lot of weight. There is a lot of weight that we carry that sometimes we need to talk to someone ourselves so that we can continue to drive that healthy culture in the work environment. I want to take some time because I do have a question from the audience.
Okay, perfect. I just want,
Um,
we'll get back to it when I talk to you about coaching, because it's not only about, it is about your emotions, but it drives your decision making, right? And it drives your stress level. Because people that have coached with me, executives, their stress management techniques go up 272%. That's the average. So, and when you're stress less, you make better decisions. So we're always talking about, yes, we talk about emotions, but we're talking about your strategies and what's going on, because you tend to get wrapped up in something and you realize, oh, wait, I will help you look at it from a different perspective. And that's how you find better solutions to the problems that you have. But anyways, go on.
no, that's great. That's great. That's why you're here for. You're the expert. I'm so excited. I do want to answer a question here that was posed. How do you keep your good employees how do you keep your good employees when they're discouraged or burned out? So let's say, thank you, Riza, for raising that question and for tuning in on the conversation. So let's say you have an amazing employee, but they might be discouraged or they might be burned out. How do you keep that good employee?
Good question, right? One, I would say to take a step back and not only look at your employees as good or bad, right? Because you're already creating a judgment and you're looking at some better than the others. But yes, the ones that are performing, they get burnt out. One thing that you should be doing with all your employees is, we have a tendency to talk about our objectives for the goals for the company maybe once a year. When you're in a large enterprise, you hear, oh, here are the goals. They have one meeting a year or twice a year and they go over everything. You have to do this on a consistent basis of tying your employees' work to the strategy and objectives, so they know that they find meaning in your work. Not just for the employees that I'm performing, that should be for everyone, but the ones that are burnt out, you need to really remind them how valuable they are. But like I said, with everybody, you should be doing this not only in your meetings, like once a week. Remind them, if you are working on a project, or at least once a month, you should be doing it with your team, reminding them how valuable their work is, even the small things that they do that they don't like doing, how it relates to the bigger picture, and then also doing it on your one-on-one meetings that you have with your employees. So the other thing with the burnout is, and when they're stressed, is really talking to them, understanding what's on their plate. You have to be a problem solver. You're solving problems all day long within your business, right? We know that, whether it's marketing, getting sales, putting out client fires with your clients, things like that. But you also have to be a problem solver in with your employees and what they're going through. So you need to ask them, hey, look, I see that you're burnt out. What's going on here? And the key is, whenever you want to get information from your employees and in life, is to ask open-ended questions, right? So open-ended questions are where there's no yes or no. So are you going to do this? There's only going to answer yes or no. Did you get this done? Yes or no.
Mhm.
The questions that you want to ask are, those are closed-ended questions. Open-ended questions are what, where, when, why. So use a lot of what questions. So what's going on here? What can I do to help you? What do you think needs to change so you're not so burnt out? Right? And they might be like, well, I can't have everything on my plate. Well, I have too much on my plate. Well, how do you think we can split it up? Or what needs to happen? What can we take off your plate, or what, have them work with them. And you might not be able to take anything off their plate, but can you delegate some pieces of it to somebody else? But you really need to but it might not even be that they're burnt out because there's too much on their plate, right? It could be other issues. Maybe there's a lot of conflict, so you want, with some other, employees, maybe they feel a certain way, about other employees. Maybe they feel like they're doing too much work and nobody else is doing enough. So what are you going to do to fix that situation? You have to first figure out if it's valid, but how do you really create that team? And if they're burnt out, like, ask what they need, also we need to be able to figure out how to handle stress. Most people don't know how to handle stress. Just the idea of everything on our plate and thinking about everything that we need to do keeps us and keeps us stressed and overwhelmed. So, you have to give them techniques and to figure out how to manage stress. You can contact me. I can talk to you about that, because there are so many things. Look, everybody has one thing that we know is that there's always going to be something on our plate. But there's never going to be a day that we have everything done. It's just not, that's not, there's always going to be something to do. So when we know that and we really like focus about what we're getting done and acknowledge how much we get done and know that there's always going to be something else, then we like stress a little bit more. I would encourage you all, just when you're doing your to-do list, also take once a week, 10 minutes to write down everything you got done that week. Because, and tell your employees to do this, especially the ones that are burnt out. Because what happens is you notice what you're getting done, and it also motivates you to do more. Because once you acknowledge how much you've gotten done, you're like, oh, I can get this. Now you have energy. Like because we don't ever stop to see how much we got done in a week. So at least do it once a month, but try to make it on a regular, maybe weekly basis. Every time my stress level goes high, it's because I haven't done this. And then I actually write down how much I got done. I'm like, oh, you really did get a lot done in this month, when I'm thinking I need to get more and more and more, because we're always going to have more to do, right? So you're beating yourself up. You didn't get enough done. And then I'm like, I did get a lot done. And then I have so much energy and I accomplish so much more. So that's one way to deal with burnout.
That's great. I want to go back to some of the answers that were posed to the group before they joined us. It says some of our members are having problems. It says creating loyal staff. So how do you create a culture where your staff, your employees, your teammates are loyal to your company, to your brand, to everything that your company represents? How do you create that loyal culture?
Well, you have to ask yourself, like, why would you be loyal, right? Like, what, makes loyalty, right? We care about somebody. That's the main thing. We're loyal to those people that we care about and that care about us. And that if they care about us, our loyalty, we're always talking about the people that are there for you, the people that are there for you. And those are the people that you're more loyal to. So that's what you have to create, a culture where it's not this touchy feely, you have to be, you think it's so touchy feely, you have to be involved in their lives, but you have to show that you care, genuinely care. And once you start doing that, we know if we all have probably worked in jobs before we had our own businesses, the people that we were loyal to was the ones that really cared about us, that were really involved in our development, you know, that cared about where we were going. So that's what you really need to create a culture of, is where people care about each other, and trust. Trust is the biggest thing. Two, do you have a team of trust? And, you know, I do a lot of things with teams. One thing I do is with organizations, I coach individuals, leaders and stuff, but in organizations, I figure out what their issues are. And then I do a coaching program, which could be a number of workshops, group coaching, individual coaching, or a so I do things where like you're able to figure out anonymously. I might just like have people give me a number, like say, what is the level of trust do you have from a scale of 1 to 10? Everybody gives me their number, and then you put it up on the wall and you're like, wow, you know. So it's, you know, it's really good for the stakeholders to see what's going on, because they're going to give it to me because they feel better and it's anonymous. They know that they're not saying it aloud, because it's hard to say it aloud unless you've developed a culture of trust. So do they really trust you? And the way that, you know, you not only by caring and showing empathy and understanding and really getting involved. I'm not saying you have to get involved in their personal lives, but get involved in their work lives. They're working for you. So what are their issues? How are you helping them grow? What is their plan for them? And don't just do performance evaluations once a year. You should be letting them know how they're doing. I just looked at something where employees, I think they have like, I don't remember the number, but basically employees want more feedback because they're only meeting with people once a year, hearing about it. You need to be giving them feedback on a regular basis about how they're doing. And it's also about the way you give feedback, but you need to be giving that feedback. So one, it shows that you're involved and you are, you find them valuable and you want to help them. And also helps your company because they're going to be working on the stuff that you have issues with, right? So that's one thing. So it's trust and just really developing and caring about their work and, you know, how they work. And again, not from micromanaging perspective. You know, you don't want to be a micromanager, but just caring in their development and as they in their careers, development of their careers. So
I've
that's
always felt that micromanagement was a style of management that really just showed how insecure the the manager or the leader was. So yeah, if you're out there and you're watching this and you might say, I might have some micromanagement tendencies, stop.
yeah.
If you need help, get with Arathi, but just stop it. Because micromanagement creates anxiety
Mhm.
in a lot of employees. It creates distrust. It creates everything that you're saying that we want to create. It creates the opposite effect.
Yes, exactly. Because and the one thing is you want to focus on the outcome, especially now because people are remote, right? You cannot be on their case. You want to focus on the outcome of the work. Is the outcome happening? Don't focus on the time and effort. Focus on the outcome because that's all that really matters,
Right.
right? And right now, especially with remote work, communication, communication, communication. You have to develop a, you know, loyal employees, you have to be communicating with them. So you want to be communicating and you have to set clear communication, especially with virtual working. You want to communicate all of your processes and your expectations so they understand, because that's one thing I'm hearing too. Like people are like, oh, well, you know, sometimes they're at their computer, sometimes they're not, this and that. Well, look, yes, we know that people have kids at home, you know, they have to do things, but put it in place, like say, look, as long as if you have to be away for an hour or two and you have to run an errand or whatever, let me know and let me know as long as it, you know, if it's, I would like to know in advance if something comes up, of course, but we don't want you missing meetings, and let me know if it comes up and let me know when you're going to make up that time later. But send an email. So make it very clear the type of expectations you have, that you should be sending them an email. So you're not just, they're not disappearing. And when you're telling people, like, look, we want everybody to be on the same page and we want to make this easier for you so you don't feel weird about it. I don't feel weird about it. You have to talk like that. So yeah, so communication and right now with remote work, you should be doing a lot more one-on-ones and seeing how your employees are doing. Um, and I read an article, they're like, this was really in the transition. People are adjusting a little bit, but they're like, you should be communicating to your blue in the face right now, like, so you're tired of it. And you gotta show a lot of empathy and understanding. That is key because, I've talked to some leaders and they've been like, well, they should have adjusted by now. It's been a couple of months. Well, the world is like going crazy every day.
Mm.
They're worried about sending their kids to school. They're worried about whether their family is going to be okay. They're worried about their own health. You don't know what's going on. Everybody's screaming on social media. There's so many things. The anxiety is really high. So don't just expect them to be, okay, I'm virtual working. Now I should get used to it. Everything around you have to be aware that everything that they're going on, that's going on, and, have some empathy for them. And, I've heard people like, oh, I've had empathy, but, just show that empathy.
I kind of want to go back to the remote work because I know at Arc Solvers, we manage the IT for other companies and other
Mhm.
businesses. So we have had to do a lot of that transition on the IT side on
Mhm.
getting employees to work from the office, now getting them set up to work from home. So it is very important to make sure that you do have a good communication relationship. One of the things that we advise our clients is we use a platform inside of the Microsoft, which is Teams. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like a Skype, but it's the Microsoft version, and it's
And
amazing.
Microsoft Teams is great. Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. All of our employees are constantly talking to each other. We can see it, we can see the conversations. We're constantly throwing back feedback, and it's also fun. They've developed their own kind of like internal communication where they're sharing memes, and obviously there's a moderator, so
Yeah.
it doesn't get unprofessional. But I think creating that fun space for the employees to engage with one another, because now they're not walking by each other's desk, right?
No, that's beautiful. You're so on point there because one of the things is with virtual setting up that community. That's number one key thing that you're doing is setting up. If you didn't have it before, you should be setting up it now, like setting up some communication channel, right? Whether it's Slack or Microsoft Teams, whatever, where people can talk to each other. They might have groups and chat groups or whatever, so that you can keep that camaraderie going. Then another thing too is because people are, and it's interesting because I've seen a lot of articles where the people that were more social are not loving the virtual, where the introverts are loving it. They're getting stuff done. They're like, okay, this is great. You want to keep that camaraderie going. You might want to do it with even just starting off your meetings. There was a great friend of mine, I don't remember, we were talking about gratitude, and she posted on uh, my Facebook, and she said how she starts her team meetings off like every morning that she has a meeting with her team. They start off just saying something of gratitude, right? Doing something personal, just like to break it up. It doesn't have to be every day, but at least once a week, like where, hey, talk about something that good went on or what's going on with you. Doing a virtual happy hour
Oh,
so they
love
can,
that.
with your teams, once a week or once every 2 weeks. So they have a place where they can get together and they can, just hang out and build that teamwork. Also encourage them to do their lunches together, like if they're taking lunch, still, if they used to go take lunch with that person, take lunch with that person, just do it over Zoom, so encourage those type of things where they're still, you know, really creating those relationships because it's very important to your teamwork, is if they have good relationships with each other.
I love it. I want to actually bounce on a comment that came on the feed. It's called as leaders, thank you, Princess Briggs, for bringing this up. As leaders, we must extend grace. And
Yes.
I absolutely love that.
Yes. Who said that? That's lovely. Um,
Yes. So, I mean, we have to extend grace. I tell you, a lot of the time that I spend in the office is
mhm,
sometimes just talking to the employees,
mhm.
getting to find out, hey, how are you doing? How's your personal life? I mean, not to where we're getting all
Yeah.
personal, but hey, are you okay? How are you feeling emotionally to be able to do your job? Is there something, can we set you up with a therapist, with a professional? Can we call someone for you? Do you need to go get a doctor? Do you need time to go get a doctor's appointment? So, extending grace and not always being like so on them about, their work is just so important.
Yeah, no, it's grace is a great word. Uh, and then not only, yes, you want to be, understanding what's going on in their life, but also with the difficult conversations, like say they aren't doing well, right? You want to, like, imagine this, like you want to go in there and you want to recognize first, always recognize what they are doing right. Okay. Because there might be answers there of how to do other things that they're not, performing on. So you always want to go into a conversation of like, hey, you're really great at, reporting and putting these reports together. But I see here when you're working on this marketing package or making presentations, you have some issues. What do you think is going on here? Now, see, I used an open-ended question, right? So what do you think is going on here? You're going to get information. Now they're going to give you more information. The more information they have, the easier it's you to solve a problem. Now, if you go, so say you said that, like, you're really great at this. What do you think is going on here? Compared to, you're not doing this right and you need to get this done. I don't want to see any more mistakes. It's a very different energy, and the more they hear the second one where they're a little bit demoralized, they'll get the work done, right? But the more they hear, they're not going to want to do it, and it will build up resentment.
Mm.
So then when you're like talking to them about what do you think is going on here, what can I do to help you? What do you think needs to happen? And when they start working, I'm like, okay, then, and I'll post it on ARCs, I mean, not on the Miami Business Leaders. I have actually 25 questions, a sheet that you can download to keep your projects on track.
Do.
And
Please do.
so one of the things that the questions is like really figuring out what are the challenges that are going on a project, so you can really start to figure out what are the issues are and solve them before they become an issue, a bigger issue, and projects are late and stuff. So, but one of the things is, okay, now we figured these things out, and or you're working with somebody that has an issue. Okay, so this is how it's going to help. This is how I can help you, or this is what you're going to do. You figure, how do I keep you accountable on this? What
Mm.
happens if we falter? So now they are part of the process, right? Of really figuring out how to fix the issue. And not only do they feel a part of it, they also now take on the responsibility, and they're part of the solution. So it's really in the way that you pose the questions to them and getting them involved in the process of creating the solutions for themselves, instead of you just telling them what to do.
No, that's great. And we want you. So if you are listening and you want to get those questions, go ahead and join Miami Business Leaders. If you're a CEO, entrepreneur, or business leader in the Miami community, we want you inside that group so that you can also download this questionnaire that Arathi is about to put in there. That is going to be awesome. And listen, there's so much good nuggets in this discussion that if you have time to listen to this recording again, I definitely encourage you to, because I mean, Arathi, you're just, there's so much knowledge and everything that you're
Thank you
sharing
so
that
much,
that it's
Tanya.
kind
I
of hard to just digest in a 1 hour
Yeah,
conversation.
I know. I can sit there and throw out a lot of different things. I'm like, I'm sorry. I just want to give you as much as I can in an hour.
No, that's great. Now I know, because we're kind of going towards the end tail of the conversation. Um, I know, talk about your professional services. Talk about if people want to hire you so that they can build a better company culture or, employee or so talk about what you offer and how can companies contact you.
Okay, so what I offer is I work with companies. I work with, first of all, individuals. If you want to, I do individual coaching and then I work with teams and organizations. If you're an individual and you're an owner, I work with, help you focus on your strategies for your business. What's going on? Maybe you're, stress management, maybe it's confidence, but all those things come into play. I do one-on-one coaching and we work on all, they come into play when you're working on your business strategies. Like you might be dealing with a difficult employee, you might be trying to motivate your team, you might be working on an issue of getting a bank loan right now, or figuring out, I've been helping a lot of people um, figure out PPP, and it's not that I'm telling them what to do, from a lawyer perspective or banking perspective, is how to even handle the situation, get your stress right. What are the next moves? Maybe one bank didn't work out. What's the next move to go to another bank? So we're discussing all of those strategies and getting your mindset right. So I always give mindset and action work to work on whatever business issues, and there could be life issues too. It always comes in because they're all interrelated, so if you're stressed out in one area, it's going to affect the stress in another area. But we really focus on moving your businesses forward and making better business decisions and lowering your stress and being more productive. So if you feel like you're not achieving enough, come to me. And if you have stress issues, whatever, I work with those one-on-one. With a corporation, with an organization or company, I do assessments on your employees on emotional intelligence. I really look at what are your issues. When I meet with you, I want to find out, what are your issues? Where do you want your team to be? Is it not as productive? Do they have conflict issues? Are they not getting things done on time? Do you feel like they don't communicate well? Do you want to just take your team to another level? And I figure out what the gap is with you. It might be doing a workshop just to figure out what the gap is. And so then I create with you what is the best program based on your needs. You might, like, one of the questions was, I have too much employee turnover. So I'm going to help you figure out why you have employee turnover and what to do about it. And so it could be a series of workshops, it could be group coaching, could be coaching individuals, it could be doing assessments, but we create the plan together, based on what your needs are and what your issues are with your team. So that's what I do. And I give, workshops on emotional intelligence, leadership, having the difficult conversations and giving all those type of tools to your employees and to your management team and to yourself.
And I think that's great. I think that all businesses can use someone like you. How can they reach you?
Okay, so my website is arathi.com. You can email me at arathi.com and send me a message and I will get back in touch with you. I love talking to people. And look, if you're watching this and if you're thinking about coaching and want to take your skills and your businesses to another level, hit me up. I always do a free session because I want to make sure that we're a fit. And you will, and I don't just do, like most people just do, like a 20-minute session. I do a full session. So you will get something out of it for free, and you can see how I work and see what a session is like before you dip your toe into it, if you want to do that.
That is amazing. Arathi, you have shared so much knowledge, and we loved having this conversation with you today. If you are a small business and you're trying to figure out, I love everything that she shared. I have a small budget, and I can't really afford to have someone full time to deal with my employees. Give us some small business cost effective ways to try to engage your employees. Like, for example, I know we at Arc Solvers, we're a small business, but we do things like, for example, for Mother's Day, we made sure that we sent flowers to all of our moms in our team. Or, when we were able to go out, we were having like zoo day for our team members, which is kind of inexpensive. So what are some of these kind of like grassroots, if you're a small
Okay.
business, and
Yes.
that we can do?
Great. Okay. Well, one, like, again, it starts with you on developing that culture, right? Engagement, employees are always, there's a lot of studies done on employee engagement. One, appreciation. Okay. Appreciation will increase. It's so simple. It's the simplest thing that we can do. Show appreciation through those emails, in meetings. Just make it a goal to appreciate your employees on a consistent basis, not just once in a blue moon. So that helps them be engaged. Again, the one thing, studies show that if your employees understand that their work is tied to the objectives of the company, they are 3 times more engaged. So that means, again, like I was talking before, talking about the objectives, showing them how valuable their work is in your meetings, like saying this is the work that you're doing, and on your one-on-ones, telling them, I know this might be some small paperwork thing that you're doing, but you know what? It makes, and it's so boring and you have to do it on a regular basis, but you know what? This leads to this, and this is how it affects the business. So it's really important, and that they're important. Because they're not going to remember. You have to make them remember how valuable they are. Another thing that I think people should do, companies should do, is, we're always having meetings on what's going wrong or projects is going wrong. I think once a quarter, have a meeting on what is going right.
I
Uh,
love that.
on the accomplishments of what happened this quarter, have everybody put input maybe before, do a little quick presentation. These are all the things that we got done right. And then, and really talk about it. And then maybe after, and celebrate it, celebrate your successes, but, and then look at what is going right, what in there can help our other issues. Right. So you want to focus on them, and, because if it's going right in these areas, the areas that we need to work on, what can we use from there? The answers are always in what's going right, so what's, it might be a difficult project, but how did you really do well in this other project that we can use, those type of tools, or those type of, maybe it was, we realized there was a collaboration issue, we're really working well on this one, but this one there wasn't. So what was the breakdown? So, but really just have a meeting on what's going right. You deserve to do that, every quarter, so they can, not just once a year, just do it at least a little bit more, so you can see, they can see. So that keeps them engaged. Again, it's just the way you treat your employees. That's what's going to keep them engaged. They need to, they need to find meaning in their work. They need to be recognized. They need to feel appreciated. And they just need to know that somebody cares about them and their work.
Right.
Those are the things that will keep
Well,
them engaged.
I honestly believe that happy employees produce happy clients. And that's what, I mean, at the end of the day, that is so important, to have a happy work family so that we can grow.
Yeah.
No one likes to talk to a grumpy employee, or someone that you can just tell, like over the phone, that they're just not happy to be there. So it really is in our best interest, you guys, if you're listening, to follow these steps. Reach out to Arathi. We want to help you grow. We want to see you successful, and we definitely don't want it to be because you're not taking the right steps to appreciate your employees, to retain them, to empower them, and lastly, but not least, to inspire them. So reach out to Arathi. Arathi, when you get a moment, go ahead and put your link on the chat here, on the communication, so that they can reach you, they can contact you. And I just want to thank you for taking the time
Sorry,
to.
I will put it on the, I'll put it on the ARC,
Yes.
on the Miami Business Leaders group, because for some reason I had tried to open it, but I couldn't.
Sure. So whenever you have the time, go ahead and put your information on there so that people can contact you. And we want to thank you. I want to actually take this opportunity to express my gratitude to our ARC Solvers employees, those who are watching this right now. We want to say thank you because we know that these are challenging times. We have parents that are home with their kids trying to work at the same time. I mean, there's so many different dynamics that we have with our employees. So if you're watching it and you are an ARC Solvers employee, we want to take this time to say thank you. And we hope that you feel appreciated by us. And if you don't, hey, team us and let us know. So we can do some things to change that culture. But thank you, Arathi.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to remind everybody, your employees are your biggest asset. Your bottom line, your revenue, everything, how your customers, how you get customers, how you treat customers, but your revenue all depends on your employees, and it's really comes down to how you treat them. So remember that they are your biggest asset, and they deserve it, and you deserve it too. So thank you.
Awesome. Words of wisdom from executive coach Arathi Ramappa, who's also a spiritual coach. We love you. We appreciate you, Arathi. Thank you for being a Miami community leader. You are a leader in the Miami community, and thank you for just raising your voice, not just for what you do professionally, but for what you do in the community and being part of all of these business communities and just being a voice for what you feel. And I think that that's so important. Thank you. And again,
I can only be half of what you do in this community. Like, you are on fire all the time. I don't know how you have the energy. So thank you for the work you do. You do really important work.
thank you so much. And again, if you're a CEO, business owner, we want you to be part of the conversation. And we also want you to be part of Miami Business Leaders Facebook group, where we will have other sessions like this one that hopefully will get you some great information to continue to help you manage your business. Thank you, guys. Happy Thursday. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.